Welcome to the In the Middle podcast, a podcast where we talk about every avenue of life because life really takes place in the middle, not the beginning, not the end. How do we navigate the middle? Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of In the Middle. And last time I was with you, I was on my own and I talked about this whole, I would say, spiritual issue around health and wellness, how our physical bodies often are neglected when it comes into the following Jesus realm. We're all good about how we're thinking and how we're feeling, but we don't connect with that is severely impacted by how we are physically doing. So with our health especially. And so I said that over the next few episodes, we will talk to some people who are way better qualified than me in this. But let's have a real conversation around this physical body. The scriptures say that that God knit us together in our mother's womb. It was God who gave us these muscles and bones and limbs to be able to function, that we are to be stewards of it. So therefore, how we treat it is really important. And yet it's rarely, if ever, talked about in the church. And so we're going to get into that. Our guest today is, I would clarify her as an expert in this field. She's chuckling away here. Yes, this is my wife, Mel, but she is a certified personal trainer. She is a corrective exercise specialist. She is personally, everything she talks about, she personally experiences. So it isn't some theory book. It's what does this look like in reality. She does coach people and she does correct people. Mostly the correcting is to me, but she does coach people as well. So I'm going to ask Mel a question. She'll then talk about herself briefly as well, and we'll go from there. So Mel, when we talk about health, why do you choose to be disciplined and stay as healthy as you are? Why?
Okay, so why is a good place to start actually, because you can have goals and why is a different. So we all have goals that we want to reach in fitness and whatever journey you're on, but the why is the difference. So the why is the overall, like the umbrella over it all, I guess, is because you have goals, and then this why over it. My why would be for the longevity, for the I don't want to be a grandparent that can't move around with the kids, that I want to be able to keep up with them. So that's my long-term longevity. I do this now because I want to be able to do other things the older I get. Is the big why, I guess. My most favorite thing is when our kids ask me if I'll do a certain thing with them, a sports thing, or hey, why don't you come and do this run with us? I like it that they think I can do that, and I want that to still carry on.
Yeah. So what are other benefits? What do you personally benefit from? So so there's your why. So longevity and health into longevity in life is your why. But that's just kind of maybe staying active. You're more intentional than just being active. So what are some of the benefits that you personally have by intentionally being fit, healthy?
So meaning like why do I work out the way I do? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. What are the benefits to being
I mean, the
that way?
benefits are that if we work out, especially strength training, and what I do is that it makes your day-to-day life way easier because you are stronger yourself. So the stronger you are, you're making your normal life way easier. You're carrying around a healthier body, a stronger body to do the normal things that we all have to do. So that's really important. We all want a positive outlook on life and how we're going to go through each day. And strength training and keeping a check on our cardiovascular helps with everyday, normal, average stuff. And then there is like obviously the other side things of with the muscular endurance, the bone density, all of that stuff, which is the carry on for the longevity. That's the stuff that if we don't look at it when we're younger, it's not going to be great when we're older. Especially, you know, if you look at your bone density and how you want your body to feel and, you know, be able to get through a day when you're older, bone density is really important. And we have to make that change when we're younger. We can't it just doesn't happen just cause when you're 80 that you
Right.
can still stand up straight and get up and down off the floor, you know, that kind of normal stuff.
Right. Okay. So let me just get back into this. So you are a mother of 4. You are a grandparent of 4, almost, by the time you listen to this, maybe 5 grandchildren. We're prepared to say it. Well, I won't give the exact number, but we're both in our 50s. We're both in mid-50s life with that. And so for a number of people, it's like saying, if we don't start when you're younger, if we don't start when you're younger, is what you were saying. So talk a little bit about your own personal fitness journey and what you do now, but, you know, just break it down, and I can prompt you if we need to do that. Give a bit of a journey, because some people think, well, this is how you've always been. Just because you've always done that, it's easy for you because. I know that's not true. So give a bit of your relationship with health and fitness through the seasons of your life, how it's looked, and what you've done well, and maybe what you wish you could change.
Okay. And yeah, you're right. Anybody can look at somebody's health journey, fitness journey, and go, oh, well, they find it easier because look at that. Look what they do. They find it easier. I don't feel like anybody's health journey is easy. I feel like everybody has struggles and difficulties because we're all not motivated and, you know, disciplined enough to be excited about it every day. So I don't feel that anybody has an
I
easy
think you
ride.
are, but moving on. All right.
I have bad days. I have bad days where I do not want to work out. But that leads me to, you know,
Yeah.
like throughout the journey, you know, part of being healthy and working out for me, it's also a therapy, a mental state as well. And I think people don't realize that until maybe they start working out, that it can be a mental release. It can help you mentally as well as physically. So way back, I started back in the day doing step aerobics.
In the
I think
early
that was
90s.
before we had kids, right? No?
Yeah,
We had
just
one
before Naomi. Yeah, in the 90s.
in the wow, yeah.
Yeah,
So
last century.
I did all that kind of stuff, teaching people, and then I was running. I don't even like running now, but I was running then. We were training for half marathons, and that kind of stuff.
No, well, context here. You taught before we had kids. The running didn't start till you at least had 2 children.
Maybe, yeah. Did it? Yeah.
Because you did your first
guess.
half marathon 8 weeks after giving birth to our number
I
3.
did. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That was wild.
context. So
Yeah.
so what was it like? So a young mum, there may be some young parents and people listening. So what does staying fit and active and healthy, how did that benefit you as a young mum? What does that look like? And just speak into that season of life.
I think it's very easy in that season of life, like, you know, when you've got young kids at home and you're running that home and you know you may be working too. It is really, really busy, and it's easy to say, I just haven't got the time. It's just not my season, and just to like kind of put it aside like it's not important. And honestly, those times is when it's really important, because you have to look after yourself to be able to look after other people. And yeah, you have to be organized, you have to be planned where you're going to do that and how that looks. But it does affect, like I said before, it just goes on to affect other places in your world to benefit those. And we can always find excuses. It's just, what do you want? What do you want more? Do you want to be healthy, fit, and you know, look the way you want to look? Or do you want to make an excuse and go, oh, I just can't fit it in today? You know, it's that mindset.
So you said it a couple of times. So when people are physically doing things, it is quite clear that it affects you mentally and emotionally. So therefore, how we treat our bodies affects us mentally and emotionally, and probably relationally.
Yeah.
You know, how we look after our physical body is a big impact. So when you're in that season as a young parent, and for you as a young mum, which I think is even more demanding, the discipline to say, I'm going to exercise so that I can be a better energy for my, seems a bit, okay, so I'm going to do more so I can be more. But for you personally, you would say that was critical.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and if I look back to like when all the kids were little, and I remember you coming home and you'd bought me that gym membership. Do you remember? It was that really nice gym. I wanted to go to the gym, and I wanted this nice one, and you came home and bought the membership. And I think Joel was 6 weeks old, right? And I remember telling friends and like, oh, I've got this gym membership. Des has bought a gym membership, and they were like, oh, that's so mean. Your baby's only 6 weeks old. But that you knew that was what I needed. Like that's how I needed for my, it was either that or be a complete psycho if I didn't, go and have a moment and work out. And, and it is hard. It is really hard. Back in those days, I was, feeding whoever was the baby at the time, feeding them the last feed so I could jump out the house at 5 a.m., go to the gym, do the workout, get back in time so you could go to work. And if I didn't do it then, it wasn't going to happen for the rest of the day. So I had no option. You just got to find where you can fit it in. And that is it. That's your deadline. Like you just got to fit it in.
And when the kids got to be like maybe children, maybe that school age, you always had us doing things like physically, like, and I know some of you heard my story, like this is not the active lifestyle of the Wadsworth family is driven by Mel with this. So maybe speak into, okay, you're a young family. Maybe you do not have as much free time as you have there. So you've already mentioned about getting up early in the morning. Speak into people to say, look, how many times a week would benefit for them personally?
Okay.
But how can your family, just in everyday life, be active and healthy? We're going to get into specifics of getting stronger later on, but let's just talk about that for a little bit. What is that? How many times a week should they do it personally? And any advice on how a family can be active to teach the children that active is good?
Yeah. Which is really important. And, we've always done that. And I think it is a really critical part of a family. I mean, I would say 3 to 4 times a week is a good, 3 times a week is a good start,
For how long each time?
You're looking at like, I don't know, 40, 45 minutes maybe. Okay. If you've only got 30 minutes, do 30 minutes. Yeah. It's just figuring out, okay, I have got 20 minutes here. How am I best going to serve myself in these 20 minutes? And if that's to go out for a little jog, or you like to cycle, or whatever it is, fit it into that 20 minutes. Don't give your mind an option of, oh, it's only 20 minutes, let's not bother.
Okay.
That's where it's going to go wrong, because some days you are only going to have 20 minutes. Well, make the most of it and do something for that 20 minutes. That's what I would say. I think it's easy when you've got kids at home and you're like, I've only got 20 minutes. Oh, it's just no point. There is absolutely a point. And start there where you are. And whatever you like to do, try and do that. I'm thinking of like even our daughter right now, Naomi. She's just had her 3rd baby, and she's 10 weeks old?
Yeah.
With another 2, one's 6, one's 5. And she's already figuring out that to go on, she likes to run, so she's going on a run, and she's putting the baby in the jogger stroller. She's got the other 2 on the bike, and she's going out for however many miles she can figure out with the younger 2 on the little bikes. And that is critical, and she's finding a way to do that. I called around just the other day, and in the middle of the floor, the kids are playing, the baby's in the little chair, and she's got a mat and dumbbells out, and they're all just playing around her. It doesn't have to be this, I have to go to this nice gym and do this and have so long. You figure it out within your schedule, and you can always find that time.
And the because of that is that if I am physically healthier, if my body is functioning healthy, then the brain fog will reduce, so I'm mentally better, therefore I'm emotionally better, therefore I'm thinking better, therefore I'm probably going to be relationally better, all of those things. Whereas if I don't, and I decide to be more sedentary or just don't have time, that doesn't really ever help you.
And what a great example you've been to your kids, that they're seeing you doing all that. That's a great example. You know, we had the grandkids around the other day and we were working out in the garage and they were both in and doing the sit-ups and like seeing which weights they could lift up, even things like that. Just for kids, your kids, to see that and to be part of that and think that's normal is way better than going, oh, I only had 20 minutes, I'm not doing anything. You know, and that's what I did with our kids when they were little. Sometimes I had to get them all out on the bikes and they had to cycle with me as I did my run and, you know, things like that. And, you know, the joke is now, do you remember the joke in our family where when we used to go swimming and before they could go in the play pool, they had to do 10 laps of the pool before they could go play. And we'd, you know, just things like that. It just makes it fun. It makes them, you know, appreciate how to look after their own bodies.
Yep.
And now, like, all four of them are, like, you know, athletes.
Healthy.
I'm just doing this just so that they still know
You try and
I
keep
could
up with
hurt them.
Yes. You could lift heavier than them. Let me get into that. I think for some people listening, you are already fit, healthy, active, strong, awesome. I want to challenge you, all of you, and ask you the question, why? And remind yourself of that why. Like, why are you fit and active and healthy and strong? What's your why? Because in different seasons of life, you will need that. And there is something which we've got. This is definitely going to have to be 2 episodes, but we're going to. I really want to talk into this right now to say that for many people, some of you are about to turn this thing off anyway because you're like, well, that's just not me. But we really want to lean into this. The mind is stronger than the body. The body will say, I can't. The mind can tell the body what to do. And realizing that. So half of the battle is in your mind. And that's why that why is really important. And then, but for some people, they genuinely just don't know how. Like, where do I start? What do I do? Now, we're talking about exercise right now. What we will get into is nutrition. But we'll get into that next episode as well, because, you know, what you put into your body, as well as how you move your body, is critical. And with the nutrition thing, I will say it, there is absolutely critical, biblically, there's stuff in there about nutrition. God does care about what we put into our bodies. And he wanted to establish that even for the children of Israel. He gave dietary laws, and I'll say why. They were health reasons from where they've been and moving forward. And so there's a lot of thing in there with nutrition. That's future. So let's imagine people, okay, this is where you are. I've said this quote before. The most important decision you can make and the first step you have to make is to decide that you are not prepared to stay where you are. That's the critical thing of change. You've got to decide you're not prepared to stay where you are. So people are thinking, right, I don't want to stay where I am. Like, what do I do? So I would like you to, let's go from different points of view. What kind of exercise training do people really need to be doing that's going to have the greatest benefit on them, health-wise, weight-wise, strength-wise? What do you think for that? And by all means, pick out different types of people and different ages and give some why to it. So let's talk about that.
Okay, well, I mean, it's funny because it's kind of changed, you know, like everything over the years, and, you know, what's good, what's not, what's more beneficial, what's less, and all of that. So that's changed, obviously, for me and over the years because of, you know, the different seasons of life and what's the new thing coming up. And, you know, even when I started, when I was in my, like, I don't know, like late 20s, started looking at stuff and I've always been active, but looking at different things. And it was not a thing for women to be strength training, to be lifting weights, to be going where the dumbbells are and the barbells and all of that. You know, that was just not a thing. I mean, so much so that I remember going into a gym and there was like 2 parts. There was this one section, it had all the big, nice black dumbbells. And then this section, it had some mats and some foam rollers and some, you know, a nice little stack of pastel
Pink
dumbbells.
ones.
And I walked over to this spot that there was all the big dumbbells, and I walked over and a guy actually said to me, stopped me, and he goes, "Oh, so you're coming into the men's area, are you?" I'm like, dang, that's wild. And that was when I was like in my 30s, let's say. that has completely changed now.
Right.
And, because, all the research now is showing that strength training, putting resistance on your muscle and your bones is critical for
Talk about the
longevity
why
of
of that.
life.
Talk about the why of why it's critical for your muscles and your bones, and why strength training, and even help people out like strength training. What do you mean? Do I have to be like lifting heavy weights? What does strength training look like, even for the person who maybe has never done it?
Okay. So strength training is basically just putting your muscles under stress. So, and even if you're not interested in the aesthetic or whatever that looks like, you just want it for health, it's putting that muscle under stress, because a muscle can't grow stronger and bigger if it's not torn down first. So when you're in the gym and you're doing bicep curls, you're making, your idea is to make small tears in those muscle fibers, so that then with nutrition, it strengthens, grows bigger, strengthens. So you want to make it stronger for the longevity, simply because the older we get, I can't remember the percentage now, but each year we lose a percentage of muscle naturally. Nothing you can do about it, it's just aging. So we have to fight to keep that muscle, let alone build on it. So we don't want to come, and it's never too late to start, but in your 60s and you've never lifted a weight, your muscles are going to be naturally weaker, not in, the best of shapes, just because you've not put it through that stress.
You're saying that, but even though if you are, when you do get older, you can start resistance training.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
you will be stronger next month than you were this month.
Yeah.
If you start.
Yeah.
But the purpose behind that, obviously, is so you're able to do life better, and you can carry this body that was given muscles.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting dynamic. This is where the spiritual comes in for me. You said for a muscle to gain strength, it has to be broken down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to go through pain. It has to go through a breakdown and then a recreation. You break it and repair, and break it and repair. And that's life, isn't it? That's life. And we are creatures of comfort, but understanding that so there is an element of when you're doing resistance training that it does need to be at some point hard.
It has to be hard, and even when you're first starting out, and obviously you're not going to go to the big 50-pound dumbbells if you're just starting out. That's not the point. The point is, if you're choosing to do, right, okay, I am doing shoulder press and I'm going to do it for 10 repetitions. You're aiming for your last 2 to 3 repetitions to be really, really hard, that you are really struggling to get them up. If we are just doing this with the pastel colours, we're not putting anything under strain. We're not putting it under that stress.
You're just moving the muscle.
We're just
you're not
moving,
building the muscle.
which is active, yeah. But if you're aiming to get stronger and healthier for longevity, we need to start going, okay, so at the end of that set, I need to be like, I need this rest right now. And that's the way to look at it. The last 2 to 3 sets, you're dropping those weights and going, I couldn't have done another one.
So what about the person who's saying, yeah, but I just need to lose weight. I just want to lose weight so that life will be a bit easier.
Yeah.
So like I'm not interested in getting stronger. I just want to lose weight. Is there a correlation between strength training and losing weight?
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because people think you're not going to lose weight just because you're lifting weights, and you will. And simply because after a weight training session, your body is still burning calories up to 2.5 hours after that workout. Whereas with cardio, yeah, you're burning the fat, you're definitely going to lose weight. That stops when you stop, like that calorie burn. So a strength training session is going to you're going to lose more calories because it's burning longer afterwards. And also, at the end of the day, we all want to, keep our weight down. We all want it at a healthy point. And sometimes in our life, we go through, right, okay, I need to lose 10 pounds or whatever. If you're losing that weight, you want to, you want that body, everybody wants that body to be toned and to look healthy as also. So if you are doing both, you're losing, the critical 2 points are body fat percentage and muscle mass, lean muscle mass. So we want to aim to do both. We want to lose body fat percentage, which is all about our cardiovascular and how healthy our organs are, and are they going to sustain us into long life. So we want to lose that body fat percentage, but we also want to gain lean muscle mass, because that is what is going to keep our body structured, tight. You know, people use the word toned, looking, you know, toned and healthy. That's why we need to look at both of those points.
So when people are thinking, I want to lose weight, we shouldn't just be looking at the number on the scale. What you're saying
No.
is they need to, their body fat percentage, you want it to come down to a healthier body fat percentage. I know you're kind of on the spot, but what would those percentages, because people can get that measured, but on the whole, what is a healthy body fat percentage? And we'll get into this next week, because men and women are very different.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing which is really important. And our hormones are different, and we'll get into that maybe next week. So what would be a healthy body fat percentage for
For a female.
an average?
I mean, you're looking at, like, you want to
person.
be like, the average healthy moving person, like, is between 25-27%. You want to be
For a woman.
For a woman, yeah. If you're going over that, you're reaching the more higher scale of that. Once you hit 30, you're looking at serious cardiovascular issues, heart attack, you know, those kind of things. So we want to be on the lower end of that, of, like, you know, 25 would be a good spot to be in for
an
any
average
female.
person.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, okay. But then it's not that you can't come lower than that. You can have too low, obviously.
Yeah.
But so what about for somebody, body fat percentage, an initial goal would be to get it to 25 or below. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
like
saying?
25 to 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what if someone says, well, I'm at 25%, but I still feel overweight?
Well, that is for sure, because if you have lost a substantial amount, you know, weight, you've got loose skin. That's just the way it is, you know. So we want to add that muscle to gain that posture, that look. You know, you don't feel tight, for want of a better word, is, you know, so you still feel like you're carrying that loose skin. So that's where the resistance strength training comes in, to make us feel more toned, and, you know, that muscle is going to fill you out, for want of a better word. But
So how much of a measure is the number on the scale for health? Is it a good number to look at? Like, go on the
I think
scale.
it's important,
and-
especially if you're wanting to lose a substantial amount of weight. It's good. You see that progress. It's positive for you, you know. But if when you come to a certain point, like, say, for example, for me, my weight doesn't necessarily go down because I'm trying to gain muscle. So that makes you heavier, as much crazy as that sounds. But you know, you can think, wow, I think I'm getting heavier. But that's the good thing, because you're losing the body fat percentage, but you're gaining lean muscle mass, which is critical for age, for anything. It's just, that's the number one.
Talk about bones then.
Bones.
Bones and how exercise and training and what kind of things that help us, you know, for bone, because people get into older age, they have a fall and they break a bone. What you're saying is you may have a fall, well, there's an agility thing we can talk about, but people seem to break bones easier when they get older.
Yeah.
So what can we do about that, and how is training, exercising going to counter that?
So, I mean, it's unfortunate, really, because I feel like our age and up, it was very different when you were younger and training, and, you know, you're kind of told, you know, be careful the older you get, and this mindset of, oh, I'm this age, that's too much for me, jump in, box jump in, and, you know, all the rest of it, tuck jumps. I don't do those anymore. It's just too much on my body, which is complete wrong, and we should be doing it. You know, the more I've looked into why I should be training now, as opposed to, say, when I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s, and the difference within training, a part of that training is doing jump training and putting that bone, like you talk about, that bone again under pressure, under strain, so that it rebuilds, because you want your bone density to be as strong as possible going into long, older life, so that when we do fall down, we can get up and it's not a break, it's not a, something horrible's not happened. We've got that capacity in our bone density to be able to manage a fall down, and it's okay. And that in doing jump training and putting that pressure on those bones to make that is how your bone is going to go stronger. That bone density is going to be much deeper. So it is important. So, the nonsense of, oh, I'm too old for that, doing all that jumping around. No, we should be doing it. We should be putting those bones under stress.
So what we'll do for today, and you're going to be on the spot on this one because it helps, and then for the next episode, we're going to we'll probably lean into nutrition a little bit more, what goes into our body and how we can manage that and understanding that. I think that's really key. And we'll definitely be talking about exercise with it. So I'm just going to say it because it helps people. Number one, you are here, and if you're part of Grace, come speak to Mel. She will help. She absolutely will help. And Mel's gym where she works, that's one thing, but where you work out is in our home furnace in the summer, the garage, in the winter ideal, and you've got things. So here you are in your mid-50s, okay? I'm just going to say it for everybody listening, probably in the best shape of your adult life in your mid-50s. So talk us through, not right now because we're doing 75 hard, talk us through a regular, what do you do physically with yourself right now? So talk us a little bit, you can mention food, but you don't need to, but what does it look like for you? How do you exercise? What do you do? Mm-hmm. Tell us. You can break it down day by day if you want. What does Monday through Sunday look like?
All right, well, start with Sunday first. That's usually my rest day. We're sometimes active. We might go for a walk or something like that, but that's kind of a rest day for us. And I love that. It's great. And rest is as important as anything, especially if you want to train hard. So that's critical. Right. And then Monday, say through Saturday, I just love strength training. So I do lift every day. That doesn't mean I'm using the same muscle groups every day and overloading that. And, there's a format to that. So I like to lift Monday through Saturday.
When you say lift, because people might just going to make an assumption here. What do you lift? How do you lift and how long?
So that's all your dumbbells, your barbells, is because I'm at home, so we don't have cables or machines and things like that. So barbells and dumbbells for me are breaking down, different muscle groups so that, they still get a rest in between. So because you don't want to be doing the same muscle group every day, that's too much. So we want to break it up so that, those certain muscle groups, they worked Monday, so they have a rest Tuesday and you work something else. That's how I like to do it. Some people like to do, right now, the big thing is full body workout every day. So you'll do one quad workout, one movement, you might do a shoulder press, all in one day. And there is theories behind that. I don't yet do that. I break it up into different parts. So that will be Monday through Saturday. I also do, this has changed over the last 18 months, maybe year, looking at how I should train in this season of life that I'm in. And I've added sprint training, which doesn't have to mean running, because I don't like running. So, but sprint training, sprint intervals, and then jump training.
Sprint training, but you said not running.
Yeah. So it can be anything. What does
that mean? Is this high? You're just going to get your heart rate high?
Yeah.
For how long?
So it can be for say 20 seconds to a max of 40. Don't go over 40. But I do 20 all out, 10 rest, and keep doing that.
And what kind of movements are you doing if you're not running?
You can do anything. Like I do it on a ski erg, a rower, or you can do some dumbbell, you could do squat jumps, you can skip, you can do ball slams, anything, kettlebell swings, anything like that you think you can take your heart rate almost to max. Like
For 20 seconds.
It's all about all effort, everything you got for 20 seconds. That's sprint interval training, and then you come down, and you might do 6 of those, and then you're going for a 5-minute break. Like you want to bring it as far down as you can. That's like hit workout.
Yeah,
that is
high intensity.
especially how you should do it, not too long. So I'm looking at like I've done in like 20 minutes. 20 minutes is, and that's the breaks in of hit work, you know, that sprint interval, getting that heart rate up, getting that cardiovascular healthy. It's, you know, it's flowing. And then jump training for your bone density. I do, you know, try and do that a couple of times. You can even add them 2 together. Sometimes I add the 2 together. So sprint intervals might be box jumps. So I'm getting that jump in, but with my sprint intervals, depending on, you know, the time or what time I've got that week. So that's what it looks like. And then I like to walk, love to go out walking, you know, listening to a podcast, getting out outside. I love getting outside, adding that to the workout. And then all, you know, the other stuff that we do that are just more active stuff.
Lifestyle.
But yeah, so generally that's what it looks like for me, Monday through Sunday.
That's your training.
Training.
And that's you in your zone.
Yeah.
Training yourself.
Yeah. But you got to find something that you love. And
that's the other key thing.
Yeah.
You've got to, and
Yeah.
if you don't love it, you may learn to love it.
Yeah,
But
sometimes
but it does
you have
help
to.
if you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, it does help. You know, and even if like strength training is critical, and I would say everybody should do some form of strength training, whatever age they are. And sometimes people go, oh, I get bored. Well, just jiggle things around, figure out, you know, sometimes people think it's strange, but I can do a strength training session listening to a podcast instead of music, and, you know, find what just keeps you going for that certain amount of time. And let's
But they
face
probably
it,
need a plan. That could be another thing as well.
yeah.
What to do.
Yeah,
and
oh,
how
definitely.
much.
Yeah. What am I doing today? Like not going in there and randomly doing all kinds of movements.
Right.
You know, we need a plan. A plan is good because then you stick to it. You know what you're doing before you get there. You know how long you're going to be there for. You can plan it into your rest of your schedule. So that's really important. And, you know, wiggle things around. It doesn't have to be set in stone. You know, if that didn't work, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try the other. You know, it doesn't always have to be, oh, well, this is what I said I was doing, so now I have to stick to this for a million years. No, you know, change it around.
And even one of your, you know, your qualified corrective exercise specialist. So for some people, there's certain things that their form's not good or there's an injury, but that shouldn't be a reason to not move.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Movement is medicine.
Yeah. Just, yeah, figure out what you can do, speak to who you need to speak to about that. And, you know, I know some people, you know, would benefit from personal training because that's someone who can really look at your form and your posture when you're doing things and correct that. That's a good way if you like to be with someone and help with that.
And let's just do a final thing to tee us into next episode about food and about nutrition. And you all know from me, I have a very deep emotional affection for food. That's where me and Mel are pretty different. She enjoys food and all of that. I have a relationship with my food. That's the difference. Do you know what I mean? We're not acquaintances. We're very close, like very, very close.
Yeah.
But just to tee things up, because we'll talk about it. And some people, you already know this. That's great. We'll help others in this as well. But what you focus in on now with nutrition is calories, but also this thing called macros. Yeah. So just briefly give a high level of that, and then next episode we'll talk about the relationship between food and our mind and our body and how we can maximize that. So talk about the significance of calories and or what we call macros. Just the people may have heard it but don't know what it is. So just tell us what that is.
Yeah, so you probably, you know, most people have heard the word thrown around, macros. It's macronutrients, it's what's in your food, and the three prime ones are protein, carbs, and healthy fats. So that's what you're looking for to get into your each meal, is what you're looking at. So your proteins is your meats, your eggs, that kind of thing. Carbs, you want good carbs. We don't want, there's good and bad carbs. And so that's important to look at that. And then healthy fats. Don't shy away from healthy fats. They are good for you. We need them, especially women. We need to keep our healthy fats. So that's what is the term macros. So you get a percentage. You can have apps with that to help you, guide you through that, depending on what your goals are, obviously. And then, of course, we do need a calorie deficit if if our goal is to lose weight, we have to be in a calorie deficit. But we don't want to go crazy with that, like, oh, I'm slashing my calories from 2,000 to 1,000. Like, that's crazy. That's just going to mess your metabolism. And so, you work with bringing it down. Okay, we can get in a deficit. We can, 300 to 500 calories deficit and stay there, see how you go for a while. You might need to tweak those percentages of your macros to get in the right percentage. It's all a bit of a science, but there's apps to help that can help you, check all that, track that. It's great to track those things. That will help because when we're tracking, we can see the progress. Very often when you're on a calorie deficit and you want to lose weight, everybody's hoping that they're going to wake up next morning and down to the goal weight. And, so we don't see the success and nothing's happening. And, we talk like that. But when we're tracking things and we're seeing where we're going, we get those little small ups, those small wins. So it's always important and good for you mentally to track those, and see where your success is.
Great. And so the fad diets that probably you do lose weight, but you don't.
Yeah, I mean,
keep
you will.
It off,
you will.
but
The thing
you're-
is with massive difference between, some fad diet, Weight Watchers or all the other, there's a million of them, and macros. The difference mainly is that, you're on both. You're going to lose the weight on both if that's what your goal is. But the main difference is these fad diets, mainly, you cannot carry them on day in, day out, week in, month in, year in. You cannot carry them.
It's not your lifestyle.
No, people pick up these fad diets and it's like, okay, I want to lose 5 pounds before I go on vacation and, that stuff. And it'll do that. But what happens when you come back from vacation? Whereas macros is a healthy life tool that you can do every single day, forever. It just becomes a way of life. That's the difference.
So that's the thing here. What we're talking about is health.
Yeah.
How do I have a healthy lifestyle? And I have a healthy lifestyle so I can live a healthy life because we're called to do that. We're called to love God with everything. That includes this physical body that he created. We're called to maximize using it. And we're called to be good stewards of it. And there may be some things in life that you want to do even for God. And then you find yourself, you're not healthy enough to do them. That's tragic.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked quite a long time. We'll lean in a bit more. And I'll say this as well. If you're part of Grace, you can reach out. If you want to reach out to me, rather than myself give you my wife's personal information online, you want to reach out to me and I can pass on information to Mel for her to reach out to you and she can help and walk and talk you through things or see us on a Sunday. But if you're listening from anywhere else overseas, just email us. My name at graceaz.com. So Des Wadsworth, all one word. My name, DES Wadsworth at graceaz.com. Email me and we can help you navigate how to honor God with your body, as 1 Corinthians says. We have this temple, now honor him with our body and health. And not only that, but just to have the ability to live life in the fullness that is available to us for as long as the Lord wants us here for. So, good. All right. Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
We'll be on again on our next episode in the next week or so. Take care, everybody.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.
That was